Since the past 3 years, we have helped around 30 to 40 plus B2B companies. Ever since ChatGPT got introduced, what happened is that people wanted to do cold emails at scale. With the new approach, you can reach out to very specific list, specific number of prospects that actually show some kind of intent.
It was really interesting to know about like this ICP site, how agencies also work, because these are the guys who are sitting at the top of the pyramid. I'm really interested in knowing about like what are the nuances of 2026 outbound plan, because we talk a lot things in the back end as a cold email automation tool, and as an agency also. Kushagra runs a great agency and he's one of the top lead gen experts over here. So we just wanted to share like what it can be more about it. So we have Kushagra with us. Totally, he's going to show us like what's working in 2026 with cold emailing, and definitely I would love to learn more about it, Kushagra. So over to you, Kushagra. So yeah, please break out with us.
Wanted to give a big thanks to Pritesh and the Saleshandy team for having me here in the first place. That is one. And secondly, in terms of introduction, yes, I'm the founder over here at Lead Catalyst, and we are a GTM and RevOps company. We have been helping a lot of B2B companies in the past. Since the past 3 years, we have helped around 30 to 40 plus B2B companies. I have extensive experience when it comes to cold emails in particular. I come from an engineering background, which means that I am quite literally equipped with everything when it comes to the technical side of cold emails. I believe I just had kind of an inclination towards sales in general, which is how cold emails and sales enablement found me. But yeah, so if that is good, shall we kick things off, Pritesh?
Yep. That was pretty nice, and it's always nice to know the people who are already doing good in outbound industry. It's already a competitive one, and starting an agency and serving to people, like it's kind of challenging. So yeah, let's start with the session. Kushagra, we can share our screen and let's move with the session ahead.
Of course, I believe we have had so many conversations over cold emails and different kinds of tools that have constantly being showing up every single quarter. There are like 5 different tools that come up. So I am quite optimistic in terms of giving as much of value nuggets as I possibly can. This industry as a whole is quite fast in terms of the evolving side, and so many tech side of things constantly keep coming up. So hopefully we'll be able to share my experience over here and give you guys a good understanding so that you can also shape your campaigns moving forward towards 2026. One sec, let me know when you can see my screen.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Okay, here we go.
Yes, I can see the screen now. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So what really makes 2026 even harder for outbound? If you guys are familiar with how cold emails worked in 2023 and 2024, it has drastically changed. I have had so many conversations with Pritesh about this. There is one or two tools. There are lead finders. There are inbox placement tools, infrastructure management tools that keep on coming up. And ever since ChatGPT got introduced, we have had a surge in terms of AI email generators and all of those things. If you guys follow Google Trends, you can easily spot that there has been an emerging search in terms of AI email generators. Now, why is this even happening in the first place? Because an SDR can only send around 30 to 40 cold emails in a single day. That is the maximum that they can do, right? Ever since ChatGPT got introduced, what happened is that people wanted to do cold emails at scale, which is why we're having so many searches. Now, what problem did it create in terms of the inbox health management, in terms of all of those algorithms? The email sending platforms got suddenly aware that, hey, there's a surge of the number of cold emails that are being sent, and they classified that as spam, right? So if you will see the overall sending and receiving of these emails, you will see a trend that it's constantly getting spiked. So in 2018, it was 281.1 emails every single day. Then in 2025, you will see it's the number got 376, and by if the same trend continues, by 2028 we'll have around 420, 450. And in fact, this is a lot of it is actually dependent on the industry side as well. So let's say we have retail as an industry, they are going to receive substantially higher number of emails, right? And in terms of, let's say, an industry like HVAC, they are going to receive around 280 emails or so. So it really depends. But the one common point that we have here is that cold emails and the ESPs, the cold emails are getting higher, and the ESPs are making our lives difficult. Because think of it from their standpoint as well, right? Why would Google and Microsoft, as an ESP, would want that their platform is being used to send cold emails? So it's getting more and more complex. And if we even talk about 2023, you would have easily gotten away with a spray and pray list, or a spray and pray approach, or scraping out leads from Apollo, or using LinkedIn Sales Navigator. But then after AI was introduced, after we got so many of these different tools, the whole meta changed, which is why focusing more towards certain parameters moving towards 2026, we actually have to adopt different approaches. What does this actually mean? Because of the fact that we are receiving so many cold emails, there's a simple pattern, right? Buyers are not really having a higher propensity towards opening your emails and actually reading them and responding to you. Why? Because the inboxes are constantly being cluttered, right? Buyers are deleting their emails. Oftentimes, what's happening on the back end is that people are marking you as spam. Your emails are naturally going on in spam because the ESPs are getting stronger and stronger. What I also recently saw was that the deliverability in terms of Outlook, Microsoft as a whole, it's getting difficult to crack. Why? Because the ESPs are also adding layers, AI layers on top of that. Because whenever you are sending an email, it gets scanned if it's a pitch or if it's not a pitch. So what really happens if you're able to make it into the inbox? Either you are going to get, seen or replied, or you're going to get ghosted. The odds of you being ghosted are substantially high. Oftentimes, even if it doesn't happen, your buyers are going to delete those emails, which is why you have to actually be really careful in terms of creating the right outbound approach. Or what does a right outbound approach or a formula in 2026 look like? So I came up with this thing. R is equal to R cube, essentially. R meaning replies. And how do you effectively get a reply? Earlier, like I mentioned before, if you would have scraped the list out of LinkedIn Sales Navigator or Apollo, you could have easily written a single template and sent that message to the masses. But what really wasn't certain was the right person, whether or not the person is the right person to speak to. Is it the right moment? Is there any kind of urgency in that company? Are you solving for the right problem? Or what kind of messaging are you reaching out with? So if you actually have to get a reply in 2026, you have to focus on all three different R's here: right people, right moment, and right message. And the overall way and how we can optimize for better replies is, earlier, when you would use a generic email, you would blast emails in like to a list of 10,000 plus prospects, and you would get a reply of 2%, and that would account to around 200 replies or so. With a booking rate of around 10%, you would get 20 meetings. With the neo approach, when you are looking at different specific technographics, firmographics, and you are optimizing for intent as opposed to simply just scraping out a list, you can reach out to very specific list, specific number of prospects that actually show some kind of intent that, hey, we are actually interested in your service. What happens here is that two separate branches get created. One, because you are not sending huge volume, you are only sending to a handful of prospects that actually are looking for your services. The ESPs actually don't take it that seriously, right? They let you in the inbox, and they actually do not mark you as spam as well. And with the right messaging, with the right intent, you can book the same number of meetings with lesser contacts, with ESPs no longer blocking your emails, and you get the same amount of meetings. So how does it actually create a difference, right? And how do you effectively even execute it in the first place? So I'll come and break it down piece by piece. So when I say right people, we talk about ICPs. So ICP stands for your ideal customer profile, right? Who is that right prospect who would actually buy your services or buy your product, right? Ideal customer profile. Now, oftentimes people confuse it that when we talk about ICP, are they my dream clients, right? Think about it from that standpoint, that if you have a service or a product that costs around $5,000, the only person who would be able to afford your service or afford your product would be a company that's making over $100,000 or $50,000, as long as you are communicating your value proposition effectively, right? So that is your ideal customer profile. Now, of course, you can have a dream persona that I only want to work with companies who are enterprises. I only want to work with companies who are having a headcount of 100,000, 10,000 plus people, right? But effectively, your ideal customer profile is supposed to be those prospects who are having some kind of inclination towards buying behavior. Now there's a pattern, there are different kinds of patterns through which you can identify that, right? You can spot that. The way we do it is by thinking about like by doing our research in a very extensive manner. We would like to dive deep down towards how the industries are actually working on the back end. Let's say we have a lot of clients in the retail industry, so I'll be able to give you some better examples there. Let's say we have a conversational AI agent, right? The right buyer for that conversational AI agent would be somebody who is not having a conversational AI tech stack in place, or is using some orthodox technology like using Clavio, right? They are getting their old buyers back or abandoned cart buyers back by using retargeting flows through emails using Clavio. So that gives you a lot of information on how the industry is moving, what is that legacy tech stack. So the right way to find that ideal customer profile would be to look at companies who have a certain threshold of revenue. If your product costs around $5,000, I would approach it as my ICP would be companies that are doing over 50 to 100,000 plus in revenue, as well as using Clavio, and then I would be adding a lot of layers on top of that. That would be my ideal
Yeah.
customer profile, because as GTM, in terms of GTM as a motion, we would like to get your immediate buyers first, companies who are looking to get your solution. So that is the way I would technically approach ICP as. Does that answer my question, Pritesh? Let me.
Yeah, I believe it covers things. So yeah, let's move.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
So technically, the way ICPs used to work, now they are dead, because the more sophisticated and the saturation level of that market, as we are approaching towards 2026, the number of emails that are being sent, they are constantly like getting increased in number, which means that you have to do something more than your competitor, which means that the typical ICP that everybody has, it wouldn't really work out for you, because you have to stand out. You have to create that differentiating factor. So how would you do that? How would you find those right people, right? Which makes me come down to firmographics, technographics, and intent signals. Firmographics essentially is who can actually buy your product. Technographics is who's a better fit. Like the old example I gave you, that was around Clavio. That would come under technographics. Then intent signals, who is ready now, which comprises our entire GTM, which is supposed to kind of just give us an idea on how we can create a effective GTM motion. Now, when we talk about ICPs, of course, a VP of sales at a SaaS company that has 50 to 200 employees, that is quite ambiguous, right? We can, of course, find bias through that, but it's more about demand generation as opposed to demand capturing. Now, if we have to actually get a buyer out of this list, there are hundreds and thousands of VP of sales at SaaS companies with 50 to 200 plus employees. But however, we can have only a very specific subset of these prospects who would actually make a buying decision. But if we actually have to create a one-on-one personalized messaging, and we actually have to get a buyer that is really interested, who's immediately could actually hop on a call with you and lead you to a conversion, we have to add a lot of layers on top of that. Now, what do I mean by that? When we talk about layers, we are not talking about generic ICPs. We're talking about layers of intent on top of this. Now, VP of sales at SaaS companies who just raised a Series B, or let's say they just hired a new CEO, or just a new CEO was appointed, or maybe they are hiring a sales team, or they just posted some content on LinkedIn about scaling outbound. That person could actually be interested in my services. Why? Because they show a very active signal there that exists publicly in the any kind of database or on the internet. You can constantly look for those signals as well. So with these layers added on top of that, we can actually fine tune our ICP even more. Add more layers on top of this. This is just something that I could come up from the top of my head. Now, for your service, once you do some kind of industry research, you'll also know what is that additional layer of criteria that I can attach on top of my generic list to make it even more narrow, to fine tune it even further, right? Because 100 ready buyers are going to always be better than 10,000 random contacts. 10,000 random contacts, some fraction of people are only going to come. They are going to think that, okay, let me just try it out, let me just hop on a call, but they are going to be a prospect. A buyer, a customer, a potential client is going to be substantially different than a generic contact.
Yeah, right
Also,
there, Kushagra. We have a like comment from AI MMA marketing group.
okay.
So they are saying like that their ICP is like owner or the marketing manager. You can see that comment on the screen, I
Yeah,
believe.
yeah, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
No,
So
Hmm.
I believe like they are they are into a consideration like we are asking to change the ICP. Is that something like that we're talking about, or we are talking about how we see the ICP thing? So if you can reflect on this comment, it would be better. It would give more clarity.
Okay. What I'm trying to say is not to drastically change your ICP. What I'm trying to say is to refine that further. I mean, if you're only talking about trainers or let's say fitness coaches, right? You need to find some kind of commonality or a relevant angle that gives you an indication that they might be potentially inclined towards buying your service, right? Now, if you have to sell a subscription service to gyms, you need to do some kind of industry research where you are able to find a legacy tech stack and then scrape those users off and then reach out with appropriate messaging. So I'm not trying to change your ICP. I'm trying to, yeah, again, refine that even further, through which we can find intent. Basically have a very focused list. Yeah, that is absolutely right, Bill. So essentially what it means is that our goal needs to be that we have to get buyers, as opposed to people who would just come on calls, show generic intent and not actually buy from you. And you also need to not be distracted in terms of your ICP when it comes to talking about dream clients. That is one, because I often see this thing when I talk to a lot of prospects on sales calls. When I talk about ICP, they lack a lot of clarity. Their ICP is ambiguous. The best way to find your ICPs is to actually look at your past customers and find the common angles, speak to them. And once you would speak to them, you would understand why they have actually subscribed to your solution, why they have actually bought your service in the first place. Then find commonalities within those. If I even at this point, if I get on a sales call and if I ask my prospect what your ICP is, oftentimes they would really just give me the persona of their dream client, which is something that you should really not do. Because if you're not able to find your right customer, how would you even be able to identify the pains of your dream customer? Because it's going to be really different, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
Mr.
that reflects very like I think. And Cameron, like she Cameron is asking like instead of like ICP is that it should be like spray and pray is that. Yeah, that's actually true.
That's
Spray and
actually
pray is pretty that. So what we are talking about and Kushagra is trying here is like ICP should be more dynamic. It shouldn't be just static like VP of sales in SaaS companies in Europe, because you don't know like which of those buyers are ready to buy. Like out of those 10,000 contacts, there might be only 100 or 200, 300 people who might be interested in something to get a reply, right? So our focus is there. So we are not contesting the idea of that ICP is dead. Actually, it's all about being how your ICP is that buyer ready or not.
exactly 100%. In fact, Peter also suggested that the idea of static ICP is dead and it's now dynamic. That is absolutely right. That's a really good point. Lisa's also saying that is ICP same as dream client. No, ICP is not supposed to be similar to your dream client. Like I covered this earlier, your ICP should be common between your ICP should essentially be found out once you have a look at your best customers and you speak to them and you understand those pain points. Yeah. So yeah, spray and pray. That's funny, but that is 100% true. And traditional ICP is absolutely dead. Okay,
Yeah.
let's move forward. So again, 100 ready buyers are actually going to give you substantially more revenue as compared to 10,000 random contacts. And the bigger problem here is actually landing in the primary inbox, because you will send a lot of volume, right? if you are relying on the spray and pray approach, you would just be sending 10,000 emails, and the odds of ESPs marking you as spam are also going to be substantially high. I'm not talking about conversion here. The conversion metrics are, of course, going to be lower, but even the deliverability is actually going to be compromised because you are doing mass outreach at scale. Even if you are using spin tax variants, you are doing tens of hundreds of different things to actually land in the inbox. But if your messaging is not personalized, and if you are having so many different things, if you like even at this point, it's almost impossible to land in Outlook inboxes because they are getting strict, more and more strict as we are moving forward. So even from a deliverability standpoint, focusing on the right people is something that drives conversion from a delivery standpoint and also from a ICP standpoint. Right. So talking about the right moment here, the best email at the wrong time means nothing, but an okay email at the perfect time is meeting booked. So timing is not nice to have; it's a whole game. I can actually sit here and talk hours and hours on this, but it's a matter of urgency, right? So let's say I see an announcement or a news that somebody really wants to like somebody just announced that they are going to spend a lot of money on digital transformation, and I've got an RSS feed, I have got a clay table built up where I'm tracking all of that data. If I actually create an email mentioning that, hey, I just saw your announcement that you are going to invest a lot of money in digital transformation, here's a free pilot that we can do, or we can create a free prototype for you, right? An okay email, it's an okay email, but with the perfect timing, it's going to book that meeting. However, if I am sending the same email when they have not really announced, or when the news is not available publicly, and it's a decent timing, it's normal timing, I'm sending that email in probably August, mid August, but they haven't announced anything, it's not going to matter. It's only about the timing, it's only about the urgency, and that has become the whole game. Because your prospects really care about a relevant reason to reach out. They get bombarded by 80, 100, 200, 300 cold emails every single day. And again, like I said, this is industry agnostic, so there are different variables also under consideration. But retail specific, let's say, those people receive so many emails every single day. And I have extensive experience because predominantly a lot of my clients are from retail, and I have a knack of working in the hardest industries to exist in cold emails. But we keep on seeing this, that whenever we are tracking for intent, whenever we are reaching out with relevant urgency, there are constantly so many events that are also happening, right? There are PR releases, news events that are happening right now. There are apparel events like February is something where so many events happen. You can run campaigns. You can mention that, hey, we just noticed that you were actually going to attend this event. Would you mind if we quickly connect over there, right? I'm also attending that, something like that, right? There are so many different angles you can use as long as you have the right timing, because that has essentially become the whole game now. And the right moment. So talking about the right moments here, where moments hide: job postings, funding announcements, leadership changes, tech stack changes, public content. I think everybody knows that funding announcements and all these different moments, they do exist. But I believe the bigger question here is, how do you track that effectively, right? So let me just pause and read through the chat if there are any questions. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So in order to track these things, there are different databases. For instance, for funding rounds, there are Crunchbase. For Google News, there are everything. But the good part over here is, ever since Saleshandy announced their recent update over different introducing different specific data pointers, intent signals, you can easily create a list within Saleshandy itself. This is something that
Yeah.
Desh and I also talked about a lot on. Before this feature got rolled out, we used to have conversations about this, that what kind of intent signals in a single database would actually enable GTM teams in order to create specific lists. So finally it's here, and in fact there are a lot of other updates and changes that would also come, because there is company data and all that kind of data. But just for the sake of this conversation, I'll give you some quick pointers over here, so that if you want to kick things off, you can look at sales, and you can also look at other databases in parallel. So Crunchbase for funding, for company stage funding rounds, Google News alerts, LinkedIn company activity, LinkedIn jobs, and there are a plethora of angles that you can effectively create and reach out with an appropriate messaging. Think of it from this standpoint. You have a relevant reason to reach out that accounts for the timing. You have a good offer and you're reaching out with the right moment. I mean, in my opinion, even if I get such cold emails, I would be thankful that you have received, you have sent me a cold email at the perfect time. I'm here to hop on a call and actually buy your services. So this is what RRR essentially means R cube. So before you email, this is the right moment again. Before you email, you actually also have to be visible. So I'm gonna ask you a simple question, right? What's the first thing that you do once you receive a cold email, right? Well, I want to look for answers in the chat. What does everyone do when they actually get a cold email?
Yeah. First of all, it's very difficult for me to like whether I have to open it or not. Like,
Right. Google them.
yeah,
Yeah, Lisa. Absolutely right. You would Google them, right? You would Google them. You would look for that person on LinkedIn. You would Google that company as well. So these are all the things that you would do to actually reply to that email. And if you do not have presence, would you even respond to that email in the first place? You probably won't, because there's no credibility. You, for all you know, it's a spam email. They're gonna take your information, or they say that they're gonna deliver, but they won't, right? And it's a cold email. Who cares at the end of the day, right? So you need to have some kind of presence, some kind of visibility over there. So ask yourself whether or not you are actively posting content on LinkedIn or not. Are you actively providing value or not? Are you existing on other social channels or not? You actually need to create some kind of content so that you are believable when you say you are capable of delivering that service. Now, if Bill Gates is posting content and you receive a cold email from Bill Gates, you're going to be happy that, oh, Bill Gates emailed me. And you're going to absolutely respond to that email as well. Of course, Bill Gates is probably, I mean, an edge case, not a good example, but you would reply to that email. But if a random stranger sends you an email and you look at that person and there is absolutely zero things there, you would not respond, right? I mean, you would think before responding twice, and that thinking part is actually creating that friction. That is what you need to remove from your outreach, which is why you need to be visible first, and you actually need to put efforts. This is very, very important. People fail to understand that outreach is not responsible to simply fulfill your sales targets. Effective outreach is a force multiplier to skyrocket not just your sales, but to actually enable your marketing as well. When all of these things come into under the one umbrella, then you actually reach your targets and are effectively able to convert a lot of customers, find those right buyers, and your outreach compounds over time.
Kushagra,
So
I'm just cutting you a bit away because I think Peter wants to know something because he wants to leave quickly. So can we just answer him? Like, can you just see the question in the chat itself?
yeah, I have to drop, and of course, Richard, I would love to hear and answer the recording about if we have a list of 30K clean verified static ICP contacts in Sales Handy. How do we easily either use Sales Handy or another platform to apply the dynamic ICP data points you mentioned earlier to pare that list down to know where to start? Okay, so under Sales Handy itself, whenever you are building a list, you have very different filters there. So you have department level filters. For instance, if I have to sell my services, and my services would only be feasible for a company that is post product market fit, and what I would need to do to create that list, let's say, Peter, I have 30K contacts that fit under my ICP, and the list is quite static. I would literally just go under Sales Handy. I would check if they have a sales department or not. There is a filter under Sales Handy itself to check for these specific things. I would also look beyond these filters, these similar filters, and I would try to fine tune that list even further and export it out. But
Yeah.
there's also an alternative. If you do not prefer that, or if there is any kind of specific data point that is missing under Sales Handy, you could export that static list from Sales Handy itself and then import it on Clay. Within Clay itself, you can use Clayagent, their AI agent. Use your own prompts to create and look for specific signals there. You can prompt that agent to visit website, and then add some scoring criterias, right? You can layer a lot of different things there. So that is
Yeah,
typically how I would approach it in terms of refining
definitely.
that further. Yeah.
And adding to that, like Peter, as Kushagra said, this is way possible in Sales Andy, like using multiple data points, because we have feature called enrichment. Like in Clay, it's whole orchestration, it's whole a different use case. But if your use case is specific to, let's say, personalizations enrichment, it's very doable in Sales Andy. You can just go and you can generate your data points from enrichment side, regardless how much data you have. It's very doable. If you really want to do this, please reach out to us. Like I'll definitely love to help you after the sessions. Yeah. Thanks for your answer, Kushagra. And yeah, take care, Peter.
Good thing is, Peter, that if you're still here, the good thing is that within Sales Handy, it's a full-fledged orchestrated system. So you can literally just build a list, clean that data, because you wouldn't have to juggle between 10 other tools, right? So there are fantastic updates also coming. So the changes that I mentioned to build a refined list, they're also going to come within Sales Handy itself in the next update. And typically I would also think about from company standpoint as opposed to the person level standpoint, because think of it that way, that people are not going to have that problems as compared to companies. And when you're talking about companies, you are here to solve company level problems, not people level problems. People level personalization do not really work that well as compared to company level personalization, because with people there are very less intent metrics to actually cover. You can literally just go to their, I think the maximum that you can do is job specific or role specific personalization. If not, you can do social signal kind of personalization there. But that is where the capping really happens. The dynamic thing, like if you want to go beyond that and add some really good touches, I would suggest that you do the company level enrichment, and that is something that Sales Handy team has been working really a lot on. So the updates would roll out, and once that happens, you can reach out to the team or me, and we'll be happy to help you there with that
Definitely.
as well. Yeah. Okay. I agree, and I'm all over LinkedIn. More important to us is to send email with links and how many after they respond. Okay, that's a good question. So, never send an email with a hyperlink, especially when it's a first email, because what happens is there's a pixel that gets embedded within that email itself, and your ESPs are going to reject that on the recipient side. So if I'm sending you an email with a call calendly link or anything like that, and you are the recipient, then I would either land on spam, or the AI or that LLM that is there as an additional protective layer on top of that ESP. It's going to identify that as a spam email. So we will by default be marked as spam, or we would never really even reach out. Okay. You said after they respond, and how many after they respond to my email?
Yeah, he's asking like, what about the follow-ups? Like, what if he uses links in the follow-up emails? Does it make any difference?
Yeah, so I'll tell you a quick pattern how ESPs work. So once you have delivered, once the first email is delivered, it wouldn't really create that big of a hindrance in terms of giving your exact, I mean, sending out links or sending them calendar link or anything like that. But what I would suggest is that have a soft task. Now, again, this is going to be very industry agnostic. More saturated industries like retail, for instance, SaaS companies, AI based SaaS companies, they are aware of everything. They have seen every offer in the market. They have been burned by other businesses like agencies in the past as well. So always try to remove that friction. Even when you are writing follow-ups and writing those first emails, what I would personally suggest is, even I've also suggested this to my GDM team, that do not put all kinds of USPs or value props in the first email itself. Try to kind of just focus on that one pain specific pointer that could get you a conversation initiated. That is it. Once they respond, then go ahead with gentle asks, with soft asks, and then attach a proper calendar link there. In terms of follow-ups, keep on getting as many follow-ups as you can, because the money really lies in the follow-ups. And if you are actually creating some kind of differentiation in the inbox, then as many times as you can show up in the inbox, it is going to create that differentiation. So keep on doing that as much as you can. Cameron was asking, once they engage with your email, you are pretty safe to send links in my experience. Yeah. Once they have engaged, you have actually gotten the green signal from that prospect, which is something that, I mean, the ESPs have no issues with. Once the prospect has responded, then it's okay. It's a green signal from the ESP side. ESPs are like, yeah, I mean, they are interacting, meaning that this is working, right? So it's a good thing. Once they have engaged, you can do that, absolutely. Again, when
Yeah,
responding to my link.
number of links. Yeah, so after you are engaged, like somebody reply to it means it's a consent, like you are a safe, sender. So like it's not about how many links you send; it's about how smartly and how safely you send it. But we recommend it even if to keep the links limited. So there's no fixed formula over there, like the number of links that they can catch. It should only be like the links are safe. So unless you are using Google Drive maybe or other safer links, so it's good to go like after the follow up email. So that's a good strategy, I would say, rather than sharing some strange links. Try to share more over drives or safer links which ESPs have good IP reputation over. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. And just to add to it, think of it from that standpoint that you have to do everything opposite to what a spammer would do, like, right? What would a spammer do? A spammer would send a generic email to thousands of prospects with no personalization. A spammer would add hundreds of links on that email. You have to do exactly the opposite of that. Think of it from that standpoint. So even if you are including links after a reply or in a reply, try to limit those as much as you can, because if you're creating drive links or if you're creating any kind of specific things, that would work phenomenally well, because people don't really like to have a lot of data in that cold email, right? So that would really, I hope it helps as an answer. I'll move forward with the presentation. Hopefully the answers do help out. Okay, so the right messaging, talking about the copy here, everyone uses AI to write emails, which means every email sounds the same. Now you need to flip it. Use AI to research, find the right people plus right moment using AI, and then assemble that information with AI to write the copy, right? What AI should do ideally is to find trigger events at scale, summarize company news in seconds, identify hiring patterns, surface relevant posts, content, map, org charts, etc. What AI shouldn't do is write your cold emails blindly. I'll tell you the premise of that. Why does it even matter? Because we are humans, and we like to have some kind of sentimental value attached to that email, some kind of personality. We would like to read those emails as opposed to generic templated emails. Had it been the case where we would have been doing outreach in, let's say, 2015 or 2022, even I think 2022 was the time when still spray and pray was working well. If had been the case where we were doing outreach there, it would have worked fine. But now people are constantly seeing regular pitches. Everything is templated, and people are easily able to see like and identify that this is a templated email. So don't write your cold emails blindly. And if you would be using AI, I mean, it's going to have that generic tone in particular, and people are, I mean, they hate that. I can easily spot that pattern. Those M dashes in those emails, right? They are visible, and somebody could easily tell that it's an AI generated email. So an AI written email would be, "Hey, first name, I noticed company is doing great things in industry." AI researched email is, "Saw you posted about SDR ramp time last week. That problem usually means targeting is off, not training." Now there is a drastic difference in terms of how the copy has been written. The second one is where we have used AI to research and look for data pointers, leverage that information, and then create a copy. However, with the AI written context, it's quite simple. We have just imported two variables, two very kind of, wouldn't even say that these are dynamic variables. These are just simple variables, company names, industry names, and we are using AI written emails here. This used to work by 2022. It doesn't work nowadays, especially in saturated markets. So use that approach. So putting it all together, right people, right moment with right messaging is what is going to create a lot of conversion. So yeah, I hope it helps in terms of giving you an idea on how outbound would work, in my opinion, in 2026, moving forward towards that. And in fact, this is the data and the experience that I've garnered by, I mean, sending around 500,000 cold emails every single month. We have been doing that for around 2 years or so now. So hope that helps, and hopping back on the questions once again.
Okay, so if I want to take my contacts out of Saleshandy, will there be analytics from past campaigns? From past campaigns, do you mean deleted campaigns? Can you throw some light over there so we can respond it better? And yeah, Bill, like you can write the base email. So what Kushagra said was like, obviously, like you write something like, for example, hey, first name. So instead of just using companies, merge tag, you could use a merge tag like companies, industries, revenue, or whatever. Like you just have to feed an information inside those templates. So that would be pretty more dynamic. So still, it's not like not using AI for writing, but using AI for research and then writing.
Exactly.
So yeah, it's kind of empowering your AI writing with more research.
Exactly. That's absolutely right. AI AMMA marketing group. If I want,
Yeah, I believe that that's doable. Please, do send me an email, and our team can help you out with that. I think that's possible. Yeah. Thanks, Bill.
okay. Great ideas. Thanks. My biggest question is how you do the intent research and personalization at scale. Even doing this 10 times in a day is quite a lot. So there are ways to do it, Cameron. Within Sales Handy, even there are going to be technological, sorry, technographic data available moving forward. And even with personal level data, persona level data, there are very specific departments. For example, if I have to give you an example, let's say somebody just got hired as a senior leader, or somebody just became a new CEO, you can look for that information within Sales Handy itself. There are features. In fact, let me even share my screen. One sec. Okay, great. So, for instance, there are department level roles, department filter that I mentioned before. There are education, skills, certifications, funding raises, filters, all of that around here. What I would suggest you do, let's say, for example, I have to create a campaign for companies, for sorry, senior leadership changes that are going to be more open towards introducing change, more adoption towards technology. Let's say a CTO just became a CTO, right? Now, how would you typically approach that? You are going to look for all of these filters here. We have changed jobs within the last 3 months. Let's say tenure in current role, current company, years of experience, current company experience. We don't need that. For job title, we would simply do chief technology officer over here, CTO, and then create a query. You will get a bunch of these different CTOs over here that just became CTOs. So how does it even matter in the first place? Because a CTO is going to be more inclined towards adopting new tech in the company, because he's going to be more open towards new change. He wants to actually create a difference in the company. So he would be more inclined, right? There's a lot of intent data that doesn't move the needle in my experience. Actually, it's going to be dependent on industries oftentimes, right? If we are talking about very generic intent data points like company specific data, like who got funded in the last few months, anything, uh, those are the kind of signals that are being used a lot nowadays. But there are different specific intent signals that we can look for. For example, if you have a very specific company, you can that are selling similar services. Let's say I have a conversational AI agent, and I have a list of companies. What I would look for is what conversational AI agents are they using, and I could do a bunch of those enrichments, import my list on Sales Handy as well, create those enrichment channels there, enrichment column, and check for that technographic data, and immediately fine tune and refine that list, create separate buckets. One bucket would contain all those prospects and companies that are using that specific tech stack, and I would create a competitive displacement campaign there, mentioning that, hey, this is something that company, that tech that you are using, they are not doing that. This is something that our USP is, and we can potentially help you out better with this thing. And recently we just helped an XYZ company with this. So that is going to make the prospect feel that I am not getting this solution with the current tech stack that I am working with. And now you layer that with that filter of that new CTO. Now think about it. We have a new CTO who is inclined towards adopting new tech. We have legacy tech that is not driving the needle, right? And then we have urgency, and we have the right messaging and the timing. When you combine all three of those things, the messaging is going to write itself, right? The message is going to write itself, because your targeting is so solid that even if you have a list of 150 prospects, 10 of them are going to respond to you, as opposed to a list of 10,000 prospects where you are getting a response rate of just like getting 10, 20 responses, right? So the difference is going to be night and day. But you will need to do some kind of research. It's going to be research specific and industry specific, as opposed to a templated approach, right? So I hope that answers your question, Cameron. When you mentioned that there's a lot of intent data that doesn't move the needle, I would suggest that we look beyond generic intent signals, and we kind of um, build on top of creativity, right? This is the core of sales, right? The heart of sales, how creative we can really be in terms of initiating conversations, right? So yeah, I hope that helps. George is saying Salesforce shows lead finders to which B2B industries, pulls data from, and how frequently. Saleshandy is coming up with a lot of intent signals with respect to the company level data. So far, we have a lot of things within our lead finders for persona specific data. I think Pritesh, you would be the better person to answer that question.
Yeah, I think George is asking like how, what industries are available in terms of B2B pools. So can you just Kushagra, just scroll down and can you just show like what are the industries those are available? Um,
Yeah, here you go. So,
yeah, so
and
there are wide range of industries that are available that you can check on, and I provide I see like you can just narrow down to filter it more, so you can just see on screen that there are like tons of industries overall that you can think of. Those are covered in Sales Handy's database because it's now 800 million. It's one of the largest databases now. It's three times of Apollo.
yeah,
So I think you'll cover a lot of use cases there. Thanks. And
100%.
yeah, Lead Finder is available. It's as a separate subscription. But if you are using Outreach, then you can just purchase a credits in order to use the Lead Finder, so you don't have to take a new subscription there. So it works like that.
Yeah. Also, one more thing to add to it, even when you, I believe Cameron asked the question, George asked the question. Okay. George, even when you are using specific industry filters, what I would suggest is that you couple them with keywords here and use Boolean searches, use or and commands here, and try to create specific lists using keywords. Because when we are talking about big data, 800 million plus leads, and we are talking about specificity, it's always advantageous in terms of how refined and narrow we can be, because we don't need false positives that is going to create difficulties for us only at the end of the day. So use keywords, use Boolean expressions there to refine that list even further. And yeah, you would be easily able to curate a list of very specific static ICPs, and then once the static ICP is created, you can refine that even further with intent signals. So definitely
Yeah,
check it out, it would
that's
help.
that's a pretty awesome idea. This dynamic ICPs because yeah, one more question like uh, so the first email address to send to you is when creating sequence. It always asked me to personalize with more tags. Out of the ones you offer, only the ones that make sense for me are that name and company name in every email sounds disingenuous. Do you understand? So I think you are trying to say like you don't have more personalized data, or is there any because you can anytime like personalize more of it. So Kushada, can you just go into enrichment part? Like, can you just switch it to prospects tab there?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Yeah. Okay. So let's say marketing AMMA. Like I would like to answer your question. Like even if you have let's say company name and let's say first name, right? So if you want to enrich it, we can enrich it with better things. Like it's doable. Like you can just go and ask for industry specific icebreakers. And if you just click on this enrich prospects tab, even if you just have let's say very little data available, so you can just enrich your prospects to a much in a better range in order to make your copies more personalized.
Yeah. In fact, AI MMA group, you can use templates. There are a bunch of templates here. This is
Yeah.
definitely going to be a good place to start things off with, because it will give you some great ideas. But if you would want to add your own layer of creativity, then you can write your own prompt. Of course, you can always fine tune your prompt by experimenting, but to kick things off as a beginner, I would suggest that you use templates. Also, one more thing to add to what Pritesh said: the way I like to think about copywriting is, whenever you curate a list, look for specifically open 5 to 10 companies, right? And look for commonalities, right? And think of your messaging from a standpoint where you are creating one-on-one messaging, you are writing a personalized email manually, and then with those commonalities that you have found between the current situation and the dream situation, the bridge that you are trying to create with your services, then create that bridge, right? First try to write that manual email, and once you would write that manual email, then look for pointers on how you can scale it. That way it would really be helpful, because for example, if I'm trying to sell, let's say, a virtual try-on solution, for instance, I am going to look for e-commerce companies who are using size charts, and the size charts is something that is going to be available on all e-commerce stores. So I'm gonna look at these websites, find those commonalities so that I can identify what is the common problem that everybody is facing in this list, and where I'm trying to get them to, right? What is that gap that I'm trying to bridge here? And when that happens, I am trying to kind of just, I'll create that narrative where I'll be able to think of scale, how I can bridge that gap on scale. If I'm able to do it manually, I'll be able to look for different variables that would eventually transition into scalability, right? So I hope that answers your question in terms of creating a good copy, writing a good copy. Yeah.
So I believe today's session was really good because, especially in terms of the static IP, ICP, and the dynamic ICP thing, because we already had that buyer persona thing with us, like ICP plus buyer persona. But usually people are, stuck on ICP thing. They just go and gonna check out in a database, put those fields over there, and they lost a lot of intent. And the closures are not also there. So I think this session was really helpful in understanding this part. And obviously, like if you have to cut through the chaos of AI, do use AI for the research part and then use it for writing copies. That makes very much sense to you. Yeah.
100%.
Thank you very much, everyone, for this, joining here and listening to us, giving us time. And thank you so much, Kushagra, for this helpful session. It was really interesting to know about like this ICP side, how agencies also work, because, these are the guys who are sitting at the top of the pyramid, who are
Yeah.
actually helping businesses grow. So it's
Yeah.
really helpful to know like what actually works in the backdrop. So if you really have any feedback, suggestions about what sessions we should conduct next, please reach out to us via community. You can just drop your questions, your suggestions over there. You can directly go to Kushagra. You can ask questions over to him over LinkedIn. He is available in the community itself. And yeah, I'm always there. So meet you in the next webinar with a new guest. And yeah, we'll be having Kushagra, more times to go. So see you in the next time. Thank you so much, Kushagra, for having.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me here, and hopefully my experience translates well into your own campaigns as well. Looking forward to helping more as much as I can.